Hey, what is up, everybody? It is your boy Evan, and I am coming to you covering this crisis going down south in LA, right? So a lot has happened this week, man. This has been probably the most unhinged week in politics, and I've been slacking on it, man. You try to forgive me. I was kind of going through another migraine. They come sporadically. Got no control over them. I got some medication that takes the edge off, but it largely makes using electronics, especially just looking at screens, unbearable. But I'm here now. I'm up. I'm back. So I wanted to cover what's going on down in LA first. There are a lot of different things this week I could be covering, but this one felt pressing because it's still going on and this has real life consequences for ordinary people, right? So I got a lot of things pulled up for you, and at the end we're going to look at the ridiculous statement that Kamala Harris dropped, right? Who would have thought that she's still relevant for some reason? But hey, this definitely caught my attention. But before we get into all that, please dog, I would really appreciate if you could like, comment, subscribe. Join me with this journey as I try to bring y'all the news in a comprehensive and entertaining way. You feel me? All right, have you done that? Appreciate it. All right, let's go ahead and check out what Fox has to say about this highway takeover that has progressed from the protest riot. It's a riot.
Hi, I got to tell you, just moments ago, there were dozens of anti-ICE protesters all along this major freeway here southbound on the 101, just blocking out. Some of them are going back and forth. We heard some flashbangs there. Law enforcement trying to get this under control as much as they can. It has been very chaotic here, downtown LA near the federal building all afternoon. You've had tear gas dispersed, rubber bullets deployed, the flashbangs, all to try and protect the property and to protect the people here from some of these anti-ICE protesters who are just causing chaos. Take a look at this.
You know, it's one thing that always strikes me as ridiculous, man. I talked about this a little bit over TikTok. If you haven't followed me on TikTok, please follow me on TikTok, same handle. It's the people protesting, saying that they don't want the deportations to happen. They want to stay in America. Meanwhile, they're burning American flags and they're waving the flags from the places that they don't want to go to, right? How fucking ass backwards, man. And normally I do censor the cursing out of this, but I'm just so irritated and frustrated with this. I'm gonna let it slide. I would say cover your ears, children, because today is PG-13.
Video. Tear gas was used to disperse a crowd as some protesters threw back those tear gas canisters. This was yesterday in Paramount, a city in southeast LA County. Fox News correspondent Bill Malusian reports that DHS has an office in Paramount that they're using for a staging location, and protesters found it and gathered in that area. And in addition to all of the violence, some anti-ICE protesters were shouting on loudspeakers at officers. This is what they've been dealing with. Take a listen.
ICE out of Paramount, we see you for what you are, ICE, a terrorist organization. Get back.
And again, a crowd.
No human being is illegal. I'd beg to differ. The law would beg to differ. No, man, we're not saying the person is illegal. It's their status, you know? Kind of like how when you don't renew your driver's license, your driving's illegal. Your visa has been overstayed, or you never had one to begin with. The act of you being here is illegal. You don't have a right to this country, Brody.
The protesters, they gathered outside of the federal detention center where we're near right now. They gathered outside of that on Friday. Police and riot gear used tear gas then, again, to stop the violent protesters. ICE Acting Director Todd Lyons called the situation appalling.
So we're in a major U.S. city, and we have law enforcement officers trapped, surrounded by over 1,000 protesters. And the LAPD would not respond to help those officers in their time of need. Over 2 hours it took for them to come get there.
Well, a LAPD LAPD responded to that comment saying, quote, our personnel mobilized and acted as swiftly as conditions safely allow. But as you can see, things here on the ground still pretty chaotic. I mean, you can hear those flashbangs behind me. And President Trump was very clear that more needs to be done, sending the National Guard here. Now, California Governor Gavin Newsom claims the move, sending the National Guard, deploying them rather, was to cause a spectacle. That's what Governor Gavin Newsom called it. But President Trump says otherwise, writing on Truth Social, quote, if Governor Gavin Newsom of California and Mayor Karen Bass of Los Angeles can't do their jobs, which everyone knows they can't, then the federal government will step in and solve the problem. Riots and looters, the way it should be solved. The president also made this comment today. Take a listen.
Nobody's going to spit on our police officers. Nobody's going to spit on our military, which they do as a common thing. They get up to them this far away and then they start spitting in their face. That happens, they get hit very hard.
Totally
and
agree.
also this afternoon, LAPD issued a tactical alert saying the use of less lethal munitions has been authorized by an incident commander. They said people were throwing items at officers. I witnessed that, people throwing bottles of fluid. I don't know what was in those bottles, but throwing them at officers. And LAPD saying an unlawful assembly has been declared. So that is the situation right now. You got these protesters here on the 101. You got them on the bridge. There's different...
Imagine having to drive to work through this bullshit. Like, imagine you're not even conservative, right? You're just a guy that doesn't like politics. You're just trying to go to your 9 to 5. You're driving, and some dumb fucking liberal arts student that has never left California is wearing a Palestine, trans, and Mexico flag over their shoulder, and they're dancing in the middle of the street, and they try to climb on your car. I couldn't imagine having to deal with this on a semi-annual basis, which I feel very sorry for the people that live in LA that have some level of common sense and sanity to have to deal with this constantly. My heart goes out to y'all.
Points, different areas of downtown that are blocked off. You can hear those flashbangs behind me. It's unclear how long this is going to be going on. And also, I just want to reiterate, in terms of the people who were arrested during these immigration enforcement efforts, DHS, they did put out some details about this. They said, detailing about 11 of the people who were arrested, they called them the worst of the worst illegal criminal aliens. They're people from all over the world. We're talking about Ecuador, Peru, Mexico, and those specific people, they say they have extensive criminal histories, and some of those crimes include sexual battery, abuse of a child, second-degree murder. So some serious crimes there, and those are the people that ICE agents are removing.
Is anyone surprised that the left is supporting rapists and murderers? I'm not. This has been their thing for the past 10 years. Long gone is the era of bipartisan immigration policy. The left loves their rapists. They love murderers. They love pedophiles, bro. That is their thing. That is their homies.
Moving during their operations carrying out here in LA. Back to you.
Christina, it's Alicia again. A question about this group that it seems to be growing on the 101 there with their signs. It's really delicate for law enforcement when they're in this situation because we know they're trying not to agitate them further, but they're also trying to keep in mind the safety of the drivers and the public in this area. How is it that, if you can see it at all, that law enforcement is approaching these particular protesters? Are they pushing them back? How are they doing this?
No, so they're not pushing them back. They're creating a line, a squirmish line, as I believe some of my law enforcement friends call it, and they're lining up beside each other and just creating a perimeter, protecting the property, protecting themselves, and they just they move forward and they're telling the crowd to get back, and that's how they're going about it. They're not going off on any of these protesters, randomly. They are protecting themselves. They're in a line. They're moving together. This is a very, very coordinated effort. You can tell. You have LAPD again, declaring an unlawful assembly. You have some of those officers providing security or providing safety measures, blocking off some of these intersections where these protesters are going. And you can see they're trying to keep traffic moving smoothly. But I can tell you, even just getting here downtown, I had to get out of the car and talk to some of the officers and say, hey, we're not here to cause any problems. We're just trying to get to the location where the National Guard is positioned to report on this very ongoing and important situation right here now in LA County. But they were so careful, and that was hours ago, that they had this area blocked off, because they're trying to do what they can. They're trying to do their best to keep everybody safe.
Christina,
Alicia?
Christina, it's Guy Benson, and the aerial shots that we now have on the screen, you can see there. You might not be able to see them, Christina, but we can. It looks like these rioters have now blocked off 4 lanes of traffic, an entire direction of traffic in one of these major thoroughfares, one of these major arteries. So that's...
Ooh, you're really stopping ICE with your traffic stop, dude. It's not like the people you're affecting aren't even ICE. It's not like the 11 people that they captured so they could deport is already in custody. No. You think that ICE is just like patrolling your neighborhood? That's not the case, bro. They have very specific search warrants that they go after. It's a very calculated move. So you're not impeding any sort of function by doing this. All you're doing is pissing people off that have to get to work, have to get to medical appointments. Like, you're not doing what you think you're doing. And this doesn't earn you the sympathy of the general population. This is such a ridiculous situation. It never should have got to this level.
It's a huge disruption. I want to come back to something that we played in the intro to the hour in one of our montages. Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey referred to what's been going on in Los Angeles over the last couple days as, quote, peaceful protests. That's how he described them. Based on what you've seen on the ground, Christina, how would you address that characterization by Senator Booker?
I would characterize that as wrong. Throwing boulders and rocks at officers, that there's nothing peaceful about that. Shoving law enforcement, attacking ICE agents, there's nothing peaceful about that. Setting fires in the middle of the road, just running around that, there's nothing peaceful about that. The vandalism, that's not peaceful. I mean, these are crimes that are being committed here, and like the Trump administration, like the officials say, the perpetrators, they're going to be held accountable. I mean, I already saw an FBI alert.
I really hope so, man. I really hope these people are held accountable. You want to know why? For 2 reasons. One, you should just be held accountable in general in life. Whenever you're doing stupid shit, you should be held accountable to your actions. But that's not the only reason why. Because this is an administration that's not afraid to prosecute. They will take these criminals to the fullest extent of the law. I hope these people get felonies. I hope they never get to vote again. I genuinely hope and pray that these people are never allowed to make any dissertation of how this country should be led. Because this is what we would get. Except all over the country. That's not fear-mongering either. That is a fact.
For a potential suspect behind assault, or who allegedly assaulted an officer. And again, this is LA. It's a big city. There's cameras everywhere. There's surveillance cameras everywhere. So even though you got a lot of protesters out here with their face covered with masks and whatnot, police are going to go through, authorities are going to go through all of this evidence. And when they go through it, they're going to be able to identify a lot of these people who are happily, tagging up vehicles and attacking law enforcement, shoving people around. They're going to go through this evidence, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens from there. But that was a very long answer to a brief question. Cory Booker's assessment of this is wrong if he's calling it peaceful.
So you seen that, you heard that. This is obviously not a peaceful protest, right? It gives me 2020 vibes of the whole mostly peaceful but fiery protest. Remember that, guys? Oh, God, man. The fact that this is actually going on is just so brain numbing, because this could have been avoided. If LA and California would have done what they needed to quell this, this wouldn't be happening. But no, you let it get to this point. Now there's real possibilities of people getting hurt. This has gone on too far and too long. I wanted to go ahead and show what the LAPD was sharing, right? So they briefly mentioned this in the last video we watched, but LAPD has declared this protest unlawful.
Joining us now live on the ground, we have Fox News correspondent Christina Coleman, who's been there all day. Christina.
Hi, Alicia. Yeah, we're here in downtown LA near the federal building where over 1,000 rioters protested on Friday, according to DHS. And take a look at that. Just right there past over the intersection, you can see some of the flames and smokes. That is because at least 2 Waymo vehicles have been set on fire here during these anti-ICE protests. There's a number of Waymo vehicles around in this area. They've been tagged. There's all kinds of vulgar slogans and slurs written all over them, saying very awful things about ICE. And, you know, as we've been reporting, ICE has just been carrying out their operations. They executed immigration raids on Friday, and people did not take well to that. People who do not support the mass deportation efforts by the Trump administration. You had at least 1,000 protesters out there that night, and you had more protest Saturday, and here we are again today. This is the 3rd day of rioting. Now, right now, you can see you got a lot of protesters. They're sitting here. They're blocking this intersection. They're shouting, "No more ICE, no more ICE." It's calm right now, but it has not always been that way. I mean, take a look at this other angle. You could see this line here. You have police that are here blocking off this road. I could tell you earlier, just several hours ago, things are really popping off here on this street just past where those officers are standing. You had some protesters who apparently had hurled some bottles, a couple of bottles at law enforcement, and so things got bad. I mean, people were chanting, they were shouting, they were yelling, they were tossing objects at them, and obviously law enforcement is not going to stand for that. They dispersed tear gas. There were some rubber bullets and flashbangs, things to just kind of disperse the crowd and keep them safe, or keep people around here safe. But again, you know, things slow down and then they pick back up again. This is a very, very...
We need to bring back fire hosing, people. I said it. I don't care. We need to bring back the fire hose. Pull up on these protesters. Spray them down the road, bro. Just spray them down. Handcuff them. Get them out of there. Because this is nonsense. And while we're at it, we can put out the fires that they've been making, you know? So 2 birds, 1 stone. You feel me? Bring back the fire hose.
Fluid situation, and so you can see that right here. A very heavy police presence all over downtown LA. I'm going to get out of the way a little bit so my photographer can get more video there. You can see some of that smoke there from those Waymo cars that are on fire. Now, also in southeast LA County yesterday, there were protesters, rioters actually, who were throwing boulders and rocks at law enforcement officers. And you can only imagine how dangerous that could be. I mean, that could cause, you know, a crash, or just incredibly dangerous. And again, it was another very intense night, and officers having, you know, to deploy, or law enforcement deploying tear gas and flashbangs to try and protect themselves and the property in this area. The White House press secretary released a statement on all of this, saying California's feckless Democrat leaders have completely abdicated their responsibility to protect their citizens. That is why President Trump has signed a presidential memorandum deploying 2,000 National Guardsmen to address the lawlessness that has been allowed to fester. And, you know, at least 300 National Guardsmen are here in the LA County area to try and keep the community safe. So that is the situation here on the ground. Things are peaceful for now. Has not always been that way. Just a couple hours ago, things got violent with people hurling things at law enforcement, but things are calm for now. Alicia?
And Christina, just to one thing that you can't see, we have some close-up live pictures of those vehicles on fire. It is a striking scene from the vantage point that we are getting, also separate from the area where you and our Fox News photographer Andy Royer are standing. But just to kind of do a little bit of a reset here for folks, let's talk about the why exactly this started. We talk about those ICE raids that happened on Friday, and we can put up those pictures of some of the people who they were in there. These ICE agents were in there to arrest. The list of charges against them, the list of crimes that these people are associated with is long and quite frightening. Christina, can you bring us up to date on that?
Yeah, so so the way that DHS described some of those people, there were at least 11 arrests made, 11 people that they were describing, and they described them as some of the worst criminal illegal aliens. They're from all over the world. You know, you had some from Peru, some from Ecuador, or one from Peru, one from Ecuador, one from Mexico, just various countries, and they had extensive criminal histories. And we're talking about very violent crimes. One was convicted of second-degree murder. There was another person, sexual battery, and another person, child abuse. I mean, these are serious offenses.
Rapists, murderers, abusers. I feel like I heard that somewhere before. I feel like I heard that, you know, in like maybe, what was it, 2016, 2015? Who said that? Who said that about people that were trying to get into our country, bro? I can't remember right now. But I feel like someone did warn us about murderers and rapists trying to get in the country. And they were right.
And again, you know, law enforcement very clear here, saying that they're going to do their best to try and get those people off the streets. You're hearing some of the flashbangs here. We're going to go ahead and move around just a little bit. Andy, can you zoom in past there so they can see even more of the protesters who have it just surrounds that whole interstate? You know, and just a couple hours ago also, you had protesters take to the streets. They were on the 101 southbound, just walking down the roads. I mean, it is just, it's just appalling when you think about some of the violence that has occurred on the law enforcement, the disruption of this community, the graffiti, the tagging. I mean, it just completely unnecessary. But yeah, at least as you said, Friday when there were those immigration raids going on, things really fired up out here, and you had a lot of people protesting. ICE Acting Director Todd Lyons called the situation appalling in terms of the chaos. What are you saying, Andy? Andy is a better vantage point for me. He's saying it might appear to be a building on fire near the Waymo cars. We're hearing sirens coming in that direction. I'm not sure, Lisa, if you have a better vantage point or cameras, if you guys are able to see that from another camera shot. But from here, I can see flames. I can see more smoke, and I hear a lot of people cheering. So that's what we're seeing right now.
And Christina, and I don't know if Andy, our photographer, can tell you, or if you can tell, when you're talking about a building that is possibly on fire, are these all businesses in this area where you are? Are there homes in this area, or is this just where you see just a lot of commerce?
A lot of commerce. We're right here near the federal building. You got the detention center, the courthouse. I'm not seeing a lot of houses right here in this intersection at Alameda and Commercial Street, and here near this federal building. Just a lot of businesses. You got a huge public parking site.
Bro, we just need to build like 3 more prisons. Just book them all, bro. Like, actually just book all these people. You already declared that the protest was unlawful. They no longer have a right to be here. Arrest them, book them, throw them all in jail, man. At least for the night. It's just so asinine, man, that we're actually allowing this to go on. It's incompetency. It's impotency of the state government. It's impotency of the local government. I could already hear the rest of the country saying this is what you voted for. I didn't vote for this, man. There's a lot of Californians that did not vote for this. We're just the minority of it, right? And a lot of people will tell you, oh, leave the state, leave the state. if we leave the state, it gets worse than this, because there's some people that don't have the luxury to just up and leave. There's some people who don't want to leave. Some of these people are like 60, 70 years old. They lived here their whole life. They're not trying to abandon their home. They were born here. They want to die here. But I hear y'all. It's not something I've completely ruled out. But I feel like this is a fight worth fighting for, you feel me? I don't want to leave the state, but stuff like this, man, I couldn't imagine raising a family around this nonsense. Luckily, I'm in Fresno. We have a little bit more sanity here. But in LA, goodness gracious, man.
But again, a lot of this area has been closed off since earlier today, because, you know, the word got out that there were going to be protests here. And, you know, these people, they're not only calling for ICE to stop their immigration efforts, they're also calling for the National Guard to leave. They want them gone. And the National Guard, they have their tactical vehicles, their military vehicles out in front of the federal building to protect that property. They create a line. You know, they're all together trying to do whatever they can. Again, President Donald Trump said he's deploying 2,000 National Guardsmen to the LA area, and at least 300 of them are here on the ground in various parts of the greater LA area right now. So just an ongoing effort to try and keep things as safe as possible. You can see it's clearly a challenging effort, Alicia.
Okay, Christine, and before I let you go, just one more question. Do you know if the city has established a curfew for this evening?
I am unaware of one right now, but I wouldn't be shocked if a curfew is issued, considering how much has taken place. But we will definitely continue to monitor that and report it if a curfew does occur. There's helicopters and whatnot flying all around us. So I was looking up there. But yeah, I mean, again, just very fluid situation. It wouldn't shock me if a curfew was issued.
Got it. Okay, makes sense. Christina Coleman, thank you so much. And thanks to Andy Roy, your photographer.
All right, guys, you've seen that and you heard that. Honestly, it's just so mind-boggling to me that we can even get to this point, right? You had everything at your disposal to quell this from happening. But nope. It would make too much sense. Life would be too simple if we just handled our problems while they're manageable. We have to let it get to car fires, entire highways being taken over, for us to acknowledge a problem, right? Until then, it's mostly peaceful. I mean, it's kind of peaceful. I see a little peace in there, right? I see a little... No, bro. Goodness gracious, man. So, if we check this out, right? I just wanted to show you another angle that I saw on Instagram. This is the mostly peaceful protest. You got a little Mexican music in the back, right? That's fun. That's quaint. Yeah. Guys dance around the fire. I swear, dude. Deport all of them. I don't even care anymore. Just get them out of my country. Now, to top things all off, the office of Kamala D. Harris. Why is this woman still relevant? I couldn't tell you, but she seemed to have made a statement that, of course, ruffled some feathers. Has over, 6 million impressions. Let me tell you, Kamala Harris says, Los Angeles is my home, and like so many Americans, I am appalled at what we are witnessing on the streets of our city. Deploying the National Guard is a dangerous escalation meant to provoke chaos. Actually, it's the exact opposite. It's meant to quell the current chaos. In addition to recent ICE raids in Southern California and across our nation, it is part of the Trump administration's cruel, calculated agenda to spread panic and division. No, it's the attempt to get murder, rapists out of our country, and any other illegal, just to be honest. We have our priorities, but if we find one violent illegal that we've been looking for and he's surrounded by 10 other illegals who haven't done anything in our country other than cross the border illegally or overstay their visa, they're going too. We're not just going to pretend we didn't see that, you know? This administration's actions are not about public safety. Yes, they are. They are about stoking fear. No, it's not. Fear of a community demanding dignity and due process. All of a sudden, you know, they care about due process. Where was due process with Black Lives Matter when you were burning down half the nation? Where was due process when you, Kamala Harris, was raising money to bail people out of prison who had just got done committing violent and heinous crimes? Due process. And they're getting their due process. They've had their due process. Protest is a powerful tool, essential in the fight for justice. And as the LAPD, mayor, and governor have noted, demonstrations in defense of our immigrant neighbors have been overwhelmingly... Get the fuck out of here, dude. And you can't even say that anymore because the LAPD has told you that it's unlawful. Peaceful. Overwhelmingly peaceful. Not mostly, not kind of. Overwhelmingly peaceful. Those cars on fire? Oh no. Those were peaceful bonfires, guys. Oh, that rock they threw at the car as it was driving? That was a peaceful rock. I continue to support the millions of Americans who are standing up to protect our most fundamental rights and freedoms. Well, that's the thing, right? You don't have a right to be a visitor in this country. You don't have a right to overstay your visa. That's not something that's afforded to you. If you're not a citizen, being in this country is a privilege. Full stop. We just need to get them out, man. I really think that there needs to be a civics test. There needs to be a set standard of understanding what is your actual rights to this country. What is the function of the Constitution before you should be allowed to do anything as an adult. Vivek really had that narrowed down, right? And to anyone that thinks, oh, you're going to make people take a test to... Yes, you take a test to drive a car, bro. Like, I genuinely think you shouldn't be allowed to adult without understanding your most basic rights. And by understanding your most basic rights, you also know what aren't right. Like illegals being here. So, that's what I had for you. Kamala Harris is still fucking stupid. Immigration riots going on. The LAPD is finally acknowledging that this is unlawful, yet failing to do anything meaningful about it. National Guard has been deployed to quell the violence because our local and state government is completely inept. I just, there's no words, you know? All I can do is pray for the normal people in LA, all 30 of them, you know? But on a serious note, if you're in the LA area, please be safe. Don't engage with these lunatics. Just try to wait it out. Stay home. That was the video. I'm Evan. I'm out. Peace.